stuff like that. Okay. Oh goodness. So, are you in Croydon, or where exactly are you?
I'm in LA. I'm in
You're
LA.
in
I'm in
LA.
good old LA. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm in good old LA. So yeah, all is good. All is blessed. Should I get myself a background? Should I do myself a background?
It's up to you. Do
Do
you,
Yeah, let me do a little background. Let me do a background.
do, do,
Um,
do
Go ahead.
you have a background of the Destiny album?
I do have one. Annoyingly, though, I'll have to jump onto Google Chrome because these idiots on Safari won't allow me to do that. So you'll just have to add me on Google Chrome. Uh, this is the fun and games
of being
of
abroad.
being abroad.
Okay, hold on. I mean, are you okay? I'm not even sure what you did.
So I've
Okay.
done it. One sec. I'm in Chrome now.
Last Sex of the Brooklyn. Welcome, welcome. For those who are just joining in, we are looking at the Jackson's Destiny album, the which came out in goodness gracious 1978.
78, man. 78.
1978. Blaming on the boogie and shake your body down to the ground. I'm surprised it says it went sold over 2 million worldwide. I would have thought that album over time would have done well. Benzin's welcome, excited tonight. You're discussing the demos for Destiny. We'll be discussing the demos for Destiny, Iowa, A Day to the Sorrows, That Girl, and We Are the Ones. I don't think I've heard those ones.
I
And I
haven't
got,
heard those ones, so I'm learning. I'm learning from you guys.
wow.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, I hadn't heard from those ones. 1970 and 78, yes. Um, that's the way going from the beginning, polite push away, but
Yeah,
you've already got some someone putting the okay. I mean, well, we can start off. I mean,
yeah.
you were a big fan of this album, which
It's
even though
one
it
of
came
my.
out before you were born.
It came out before I was born, but like a lot of our chats, it goes back to like formative years. It goes back to like our price in our price music, the which is like a record store back in the old days in England. They do like reasonably priced music. It's where a lot of people would get their music from. So I remember like I think I would have been about I think I was in year 5 or year 6, and I kept on seeing this album called Destiny. And I remember there was a book by Adrian Grant, who was like a great Michael Jackson biographer. It was called Michael Jackson, the Visual Documentary. And it was a great resource in the 90s, pre-internet, for like all of Michael Jackson's solo career, his Jackson 5 career, up until that point, really, because I think it came out around 94, just before History had dropped. So it kind of had all of his discography and kind of a breakdown of each kind of album. But I remember seeing the cover of Destiny and that and thinking like, oh, like that looks like a really, really cool cover. And then it just so happened that it was available at our price. The later Jackson's albums like Triumph and Victory weren't readily available like that. And just as a student of the Jackson 5 at that point and the Jacksons in general, I had I was very much aware of the context of say like an album like Destiny, because I'd also
Mhm.
read this great book by J. Randy Taraborelli called Michael Jackson, The Madness and the Magic and the Madness, which is like one of the best Michael Jackson books that's ever been written. And he's, after 2005 trial, he did updates on it and things like that. But it broke down the Jacksons' transition out of Motown into CBS Epic, and how much of a paradigm shift and huge moment that was, not only for them as a family, but them as a band. It was kind of make or break. So Destiny is the third album in that contractual run with Epic Records. The first one was the self-titled Jackson's album, which came out in '76, and that was that had songs like "Enjoy Yourself," "Show You the Way to Go," and "Blues Away." You know, kind of because they partnered with Gamble and Huff at Philadelphia International Records. You know, Gamble and Huff had like crazy success in the '70s with like the OJs, I think Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, like all these great bands mixing soul and, you know, disco, very much kind of forging what was known as the Philly sound. And the first Jackson's group album on Epic really took that sound. It was very much the Philly sound. And just for context as well, like loads of you will know, because I know like anyone who listens to this stream is a super fan, like super duper fan. Like you guys know more than me. But you know that the Jacksons is different from the Jackson 5 in that Jermaine left because he stayed at Motown, and then Randy, who kind of, you know, was the baby brother, stepped up and took his place. But that first album was cool. The Jackson self-titled album. It was very middle of the road. It was cool.
Yeah, it only went gold, so it didn't commercially do as well as they would have expected.
It didn't. No, it didn't. And I think one of the reasons why they wanted to move to EBS and Epic was Walter. It was like Walter Yetnikoff, who's the head of that label, kind of brought them over, and they'd been promised creative freedom and creative control, because Motown, barring a few artists, everything with Motown was handled by one of the in-house production crews or writing crews, whether it be Holland Dozier Holland, whether it be like the Funk Brothers doing the kind of backing tracks, or the Corporation, which is Fonz Mazel, Deke Richards, Berry Gordy, and Hal Davis, who kind of generated the Jackson 5's first 4 non-singles. Most stuff, writing and production, was handled internally at Motown, barring like Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye, who rebelled and broke out against that. So the Jacksons wanted that kind of autonomy. So they were offered at CBS. And I think the only offering on that first album that was penned by them was Blues Away, which is a Michael penned song. And it kind of is a cute little ditty. But to your point, the album went gold. So it wasn't a big hit. I think Show You the Way to Go and Enjoy Yourself might have been bigger hit overseas. They were kind of like middle of the road disco records. Then they dropped another album called Going Places, which came out in '77, which was totally fine. It didn't do well. It didn't do well at all. But I actually really like Going Places. It's got some bangers on it. Title track Going Places is hard. The first song, Music's Taken Over, is, no one really talks about it as like in the kind of pantheon of Michael records. Music's Taken Over is funky as hell. You've got Different Kind of Lady. You've got Even Though You're Gone, which is an incredible ballad by Michael. I think I get distracted because I think Benson has just sent me something on Instagram, so I'll look at that separately. I can't, my dude. Don't distract me. I know you're trying to teach me, but don't distract me. Don't threaten me with a good time. And so with this Destiny's album, it was like make or break really for them, because they hadn't really hit the ground running. And mind you, this is a bubblegum kids group trying to transition into being adults. So I think they took a real they made a gamble, no pun intended, with the Gamble and Huff. They took a gamble on themselves and said, look, guys, we are going to do it ourselves. We're going to do this album ourselves. So they kind of huddled away. And barring like one song, which is Blame It on the Boogie, which was weirdly written by a guy called Mick Jackson from England. They wrote every song, wrote and produced every song, and played on every song as well. Because historically, like Tito Jackson, rest his soul, was an amazing guitarist. Jermaine was an amazing bassist, but they never got their credit on studio albums because Motown handled all that stuff internally. But then they obviously had to replicate that live and do all that stuff live, which, you know, they're amazing at. But, you know, Tito got to play on this on this album, And Destiny's just it encapsulates a certain time for me. It freezes a certain time. So I was in primary school. I must have been about 10, maybe thereabouts, and I would play this album back to back. I'd actually skip
Wow.
Blame It on the Boogie because I kind of thought it's fine. It's fine. It's cool. It's a cool song. But it didn't really get to the crux of what the album represented. I think, like, to me, the album really kicks off with the first ballad on there, which is track 2, which is Push Me Away. Push Me Away is like one of the most beautiful Michael Jackson vocals that exists. It's so well written, and the orchestration is like so lush and dreamy. And Michael was a great balladeer, and this is amongst one of his finest vocal performances on a ballad. It's beautiful. The lyrics are beautiful, and it just takes me. You know, when a song takes you to exactly where you were when you first heard it. Mind you, it was released in 78. I first listened to the album in probably 96, 97. So out of the context of which it was recorded, but like it just takes me back to that pocket of time. Me sitting, me reading a book while listening to it, or coming home from school and putting it on. But Pushing It Away really kicks the album off. Like I didn't really want to talk too much about Blame It on the Boogie because people know that song. It feels like a very kind of de rigueur Michael Jackson song that you'd put on at the school disco, or you could play it anywhere and people get it. But the album cuts, I don't think people are too familiar with.
But I think one of the things you notice is that if the first album that they did in CBS does gold, then the second album doesn't even go gold. But in both those two albums, the Jacksons didn't really have much creative control, and they go to Sony, says, "Look, give us control and see what we do," and then you get Destiny, which does double platinum, which, you know, compared to what they've done before, shows okay. And I'm listening to the album and I'm thinking, this is. I mean, it's you know, I mean, it's called the Jacksons, but I just felt like this was, you know, Off the Wall Part 2 or something like that.
Or Off the Wall Zero, in fact, because this is before that. And actually, what's really good about this album, it's good that you noticed that this album is the maturation of Michael Jackson as a vocalist and as a vocal performer, and a studio artist as well, because this is the first body of work that every song, barring the first Blame It on the Boogie, which is Mick Jackson, where his writing credits are all over it, whether it's vocal arrangement or this or that. And it's like Off the Wall Zero in a lot of ways. But it's really, so I think about this, and I was talking to my friend Francis Ezekiel, who's like a big MJ fan. He charts it as like the Off the Wall prequel, but I think this album has more connective tissue to the next album, Triumph, because of the players. So if you think about this album, you've got Tom Washington, aka Tom 84, who is like one of the arrangers and musicians on it, and he worked with Funkadelic and loads of other people. But like as an arranger, he's all over it. So I think from horn arrangements to rhythm arrangements, Tom 84 is all over it. And as a kid, I used to look, who's this Tom 84? And then when I finally got Triumph, I looked and I saw, oh, it's the same thing. It's the same, you know, same credits. And actually, that's what differentiates production-wise the Jacksons albums from the late 70s to the mid 80s and Michael's solo albums from that same period, is that the choice of arrangement and the choice of production, like the personnel changes, because they're slightly different, those albums. Like I think the horn sections in Destiny and Triumph were done by Tom 84, and in for Off the Wall, Thriller, and for Bad, it's Jerry Hay and the Sea Wind horns. So it's just like a different choice of arranger, of horn arrangement and rhythm arrangement in that respect. But like you've got people like Greg Fillinganes, who played on this album. I think Greg Fillinganes toured the Destiny tour. He did the Destiny tour, but he also played like uncredited on this album as well. And you it's to the point that sparked this little thread. Yeah, it is a lot of the hallmarks of what would later become Michael Jackson's vocal style, his identified vocal style, can be found in this. The whoops, the hollers, the percussive, all of those little ticks that we love. Some of them, the embryonic, formations of these ticks are in this album.
Yeah, I think I'm listening to it and I'm thinking there was a song, and I wish I'd written them down which song it was that reminded me of "Want to Be Starting Something."
Maybe "Shake Your Body."
Maybe it's "Shake Your Body." That just I'm thinking of. So it's almost as though I'm thinking, well, Quincy, I thought he went and did something revolutionary on Off the Wall, and I'm seeing the almost taking the foundations of this album, which is translated to Off the Wall. And in some cases, I'm listening to, I'm thinking, most apart from I think there's some of the songs at the end where I think either Randy or so is singing, but I'm thinking, Mike, this is a Michael solo album, just with some of his brothers just doing some dancing with him.
Yeah, exactly. It's some BVs
because he was doing everything. It just felt like
everything. Yeah, like
it just felt.
Go on.
Yeah, no, it just felt like, and especially if somebody who hasn't really, because I'd be honest that I hadn't. I mean, I knew some of the songs on there, "Blame It on the Boogie" and "Shake It Down to the Ground." Those were the only ones that I'd known as singles from this album. So when I'm listening to the rest of the album, I'm like, okay, I haven't heard this before, but okay, this is just like classic Michael, like an unreleased Michael stuff.
Yeah,
the title track to me is what I liked about the title track. The Destiny song was it reminded me of something that I don't know if you ever seen a Muppet movie. Here we go down the road when Kermit and Fuzz. Have you watched the Muppet movie? The original?
Not in a long time.
Okay. So there was a song when Kermit and Fuzzy get in the car and let's go down the road, and they just get in the car.
Oh,
driving
which is
down.
like similar to Ease on Down, Ease on Down,
Yeah.
road.
But there was that sense of folk carpenters. There was that sort of stuff with, say, Destiny, where it didn't sound like disco, didn't sound like R&B, just sounded like we could sing.
It felt like, I know exactly what you mean, and that's kind of, when you think about the arrangement of the song, it's just a guitar. It's a beautiful guitar intro. It feels like a country folk song, and then it's got like a light drum kind of background, but it's not like, and then it goes into funk later. It gets funky later, but the entry point is folk, and it's incredible guitar intro, and it's kind of, for the most part, unlike a lot of the other songs on this album, and it's good that it comes at the midpoint. I think it's like track 4 or 5.
It's track 5.
Track 5. Track 5. There you go. So it would have been probably the beginning of the second side, if we're talking vinyl days.
Side B. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. So it's like so this is just a sequencing thing as well. They're conscious of like, oh, I want to give you something different. You're flipping this disco. I want to give you something different, and title tracks are super important, because they, especially in the album era, a title track is your mission statement, effectively. And I think that song is so beautiful, really beautiful. Now the lyrics are, now, in this world there's much confusion, and I've tasted city life and it's not for me. I wish to reach the stars, but there's no stars to see. I'm going to search this world until I find my destiny. If it's the rich life, I don't want it. Happiness ain't always material things. And it's like, right, Michael has a penchant for like big titles. Like, so he's got Destiny, Off the Wall, Thriller, Triumph, Victory. So it's like superlative 101, but like to actually and look, and the English major in me is like, it's sort of like, it feels like the syntax doesn't feel right, saying I want destiny. Like, what does that mean? It's like kind of an odd way of phrasing the thing.
Yeah.
It's like you just found the word, you've said that this is going to be the title song, and you don't actually fully know what it means, but it
Yeah,
works. It works.
I
It
want
works.
destiny. Yeah,
Yeah, I want destiny.
I did think about that. I want
Yeah,
destiny, but
yeah,
yeah, I guess if you think about it literally, like, doesn't make sense. But then it's
yeah.
unless it's a girl like called Destiny.
Exactly. Yeah, because like, you know, like or Destiny's Child. Maybe it's a precursor to that. But you know, but I want destiny is a weird phrasing for a thing. It sort of doesn't make sense, but I get what they mean. You
Yeah.
know, destiny is the place for me. So you can take and glean what you want from it. And actually, just because it's Michael, we'll let it slide. We'll let the syntax and the grammatical accuracy, whatever, slide. But that's a great song,
But
and a
then
great way to.
it was written by the Jacksons, and I wonder how
Mm,
they shared the writing credits because um, "Shake Your Body to the Ground" was Michael and Randy. That was almost like
yeah,
only those two, and then "All Night Dancing" was Michael and Randy, and
yeah.
that's what you get for being
For being
polite,
like,
Michael
yeah,
and Randy. Then all the rest. Then no, that's not all the rest. Destiny,
yeah,
bless his soul,
yeah,
and the things you do, things I
yeah,
do for you, and
yeah.
push me away are written by the Jacksons, and
The
and you
ensemble.
kind of wonder how they shared the writing credit, or whether Joe's saying, "Okay, look, man, you're gonna
You,
share with this."
you got
They
to give
do.
something for your brothers. You got to give something for your brothers. So this is what I think. That Michael and Randy pairing shows its head again on "Can You Feel It?" If I'm not mistaken. "Can You Feel It" is a Michael and Randy written tune, if I'm not mistaken. And
Let
I
me
think kind
see.
of, I could be completely wrong, but my
No,
gut
it's
tells
Michael
me
and Jackie.
Michael and Jackie. Okay, cool. I beg your
Mm.
pardon. Well, I'm wrong on that. Cool. So that blows my theory out of the water. But Michael being the common denominator on the writing credits in that way, it makes sense. Now there's this clip of it's a clip that they might have done for Right On in the 70s where they're interviewing them as kids and they're like, oh, well, what you got planned? What do you want to do when you grow older? And you know, Michael's talking about the songs that he started penning, and his brothers are laughing a little bit and all that type of stuff. But you could just get the idea
Mm.
that as a little kid, that was what he wanted to do. He wanted to get into the writing and production, and also get the idea that his brothers were out doing stuff that older teenagers were doing during that period, and Michael was sponging and being a studio rat and sitting around learning and wanting to improve his craft. So it's no surprise that he has credits on that he's got his credits on those that his credits are all over that album.
What about when you
Um
do? Because you talked about some of the early phrasings of the
mm,
and I saw the clip of him, maybe it was when they sang Destiny, maybe it's on the BBC,
mm,
and you could see the music in him as he's dancing and he's lifting up his hand and shaking.
yeah,
It was almost like he started to really grow into how his performance as he's singing,
mm,
um, and that just felt like this. And as I said, his brothers just said, "Look, we'll let you shine. You're
yeah,
the guy. Who,
yeah,
we're not going to
yeah.
hold you back because we can tell that there's something different in how you perform and deliver."
100%. Yeah, I think like, so also when you talk to engineers who worked with him, he wouldn't sit still. He'd go in the booth. There's a story of, you know, him. You interviewed Jam and Lewis, didn't you?
No,
Have
not
you
yet.
interviewed?
No.
Okay. But there's interviews with Jam and Lewis talking about the recording process of Scream, and just saying like
Mm.
a Tasmanian devil came in there. So he goes in meek and mild and like, oh, I'm just gonna do something. I want to try something, and then he becomes a Tasmanian devil. So I think with Michael as a studio professional, the dance and the rhythmic component is fundamental to it,
Mm.
and just a performance thing, because you could probably, they often talk about him basically sketching out what the performance would be in the booth, like him imagining I'm performing it. So, and energy never dies. It just transfers. And actually with him, all the energy he left in these records and those acetate vinyls or on those master tape
Mm.
recordings, it's all there. Um, but
But I
the
also
vocal
wanted to say
stylings
that
gone.
if you look at the
Mhm.
picture, I remember seeing these guys and thinking that because I had an afro as a kid, and
Mhm.
I look at them and I could see myself in them
Mm.
before the Jericho. So this particular when they were in this stage before they did
Yeah,
Triumph, when they had the Jerichos, which was
yeah,
I didn't have this.
yeah.
I remember as a kid watching them on TV and thinking they look like me and being
They look
proud.
like you. Yeah,
Yeah, being proud of them and how they felt like, yeah, these. And it's, at this time I was in Liverpool, yeah, living in Liverpool when this came out, and I felt, and so be able to see this version of Michael, and then probably when Billie Jean came out and saying, no, I don't. The Thriller version of him, he looked further away, but this version of him looked like he could have been an older brother, an uncle or so. They all looked
yeah,
relatable to me at the time,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that was one of the things I appreciated. But the songs were, yeah, everybody, they were still attainable and they felt accessible.
yeah,
How they were at this time. I mean,
yeah.
did you? I mean, when you first even see the album, did you have a sense? Because you got the album after Thriller
Yeah, after
and
yeah, I got it
after
after
Bad,
Thriller,
after
after the
Dangerous.
after Dangerous, exactly. After I think History had already come out by that point, so
Oh wow.
Michael Jackson was already white by that point, I mean like as a cultural icon as well as like physically, like Michael Jackson just wasn't the preserver of black people anymore, which is ostensibly what you're talking about, that
Mm,
relatability. I'll just say it plainly. Like Michael Jackson has so many white fans, and it's amazing. But his first entry point was through black people,
mm,
because if you look at that time period, all right, Elvis has maybe just passed, but there weren't black superstars like that. There were amazing black talents, but no one at that point was young. Like, look, you had the Motown, where you had the sound of young America, amazing. But from baby Michael Jackson to late teens Michael Jackson, he was transcendent. And you're talking about five brothers from basically a steel town like Gary, Indiana. They represented something incredible. They represented something to people in Cameroon. They represented something to people in Jamaica. They represented something
yeah.
to people on the streets of London, but unified by blackness. And I'm sorry, I'll just say it, like, they meant something special to black people, where like they're white fans. I'm sure there was like a connectivity. You're
Mm,
not going to relate the same way, because like it will never mean the same thing. And I'm saying that quite passionately. It can't, because I'm seeing someone that looks like me in a time where like we're still post civil rights. We've just left civil rights. So 78, this has come out. 10 years prior to that, Martin Luther King had been assassinated. Mad when you think about it. And you've
mm,
got these guys carefree. And you talk to people who lived in LA at the time, or you talk to people about the Jacksons, what the actual Jacksons were. There was some like brothers from Gary, Indiana, like wealthy, living in LA, like having the
mm,
lay of the land. And you had this one guy who was a once in a generation talent, Michael, and just had this energy. Even looking at him in this picture, you're like, you've got something. You've got this thing that is undefinable. It's celestial. It's connected to something outside of ourselves or whatever. So what you're saying, as someone who's a few years my senior, and you would have experienced that period of time, that feeling of connectivity to the Jacksons is amplified that much more. And then to feel, what, to my point about energy, I was born 8 years after this album came out, and it's
mm,
still relevant to me. It's
mm,
relevant, and the energy of Michael. I grew up with the lighter version of Michael, but I reached back for the black version of him, for lack of a better phrase, because it's representation. It's representation, and actually going like, wait a sec, the biggest star on the planet is black, and he's amazing, and he looks like me, or at least he looked like me at one point, and he's ours, and he represents us in this incredible way. So
were there parts of you that listened to this album and think, in the 2000s we had Justin Timberlake, Robin Thicke, all singing very much. I'm listening to this album and says, well, this is what Justin Timberlake was doing with
so something Justified.
And I was like, but
Justified, yeah.
And then I realized that actually I missed the soulful version of Michael, who sang in this album with so much. His vocals were just on another level. His soul was just, you could actually believe what he's singing.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward to maybe History and Dangerous, and it felt like he was. It felt like he was relying too much on the music and the production, and not on these on his delivery and reaching the soulful parts of him. And I don't know if he had kept it soulful. Whether it might have alienated the massive international fan base.
One of the biggest what ifs, and I think your reasoning for that is sensible, as in like that's a sensible assertion, that like he had to keep the thing broad. Now, when you're chasing blockbuster numbers, it's really difficult to keep it local, because it's like, well, I've got the planet to appeal to, and for lack of a better thing, there's white people watching now. There's white people who are fans. It's one of we talked about Invincible at one point, and I had this wish that, like, actually what could have happened is you take it back to Philly, to the Philly sound with butterflies. You make an album full of butterflies, of soul, of him riffing, of him just black vocals, you know. But that Michael Jackson left the world a long time before, you know. And look, I love the Michael Jackson vocal styling became a brand. So all those grunts, all those percussive grunts, all of that thing, it became a brand, and it became bigger than the version of him that's singing here. Because I don't think the apex vocally had been reached yet, to me. I think like the height is around this period of like him doing this album, then Off the Wall takes it to a different level, and then some of the stuff he did on Triumph, he's got that song Everybody. He's got Time Waits for No One, which is a great ballad. That's the Triumph album. But it was still innocent vocals. It didn't have that grit, that dread that he found a lot of in Bad and then later Dangerous, which some people would be like, yeah, these affectations are kind of annoying, but they became the Michael Jackson brand. So actually, when you're going to imitate Michael and do a caricature of him, it's going to be based on the Shaman version of Michael Jackson, which is, you know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? That was found later on in the late 80s, that kind of Shaman kind of singing from that part of his vocal, versus he just sounds free here. He sounds free, full of joy, no dread. And I don't mind the dread. The dread's great. But and that angst, that's great. But like so in terms of what you're saying, the commercial constraints meant of brand Jackson dictated that he boxed himself into a thing, a vocal styling. Because look, those fans, the white fans around the world, were at one point in time putting bums on seats, because naturally, I think as Michael Jackson veered away from his black audience, they became less, look, and people can shout me down, but they became less of a commercial, commercial responsibility, because like, I'm not catering just to my black fans anymore. I'm not catering to the people who grew up on Jackson 5. I'm catering to the people that is watching me in Bucharest, you know. You know, but it's a shame, because here you're just hearing joy, and you're hearing someone, but you're also hearing someone who's they've just turned 20, maybe, because it came out in 78, so he's just turned 20. You're talking about I'm applying like this thing to someone who's effectively just coming into adulthood, but is a veteran at this point because he's been doing it for so long. But this is a 20-year-old thereabouts, 19, 20-year-old. Yeah, like I too wish that he'd sang like this on some of his later records, The Freedom.
Yeah. Do you want to go through
Mhm.
some of the songs on there?
Yeah,
And yeah, just tell I mean, we can
sure.
start off with the
What title track? Oh, sorry, Blame It on the Boogie. You want to do from that?
let
Or
me
do you want a
see,
different?
track listing. Blame on the Boogie, yes. So that was the very
Yeah,
first song on it.
yeah.
So
Blame It
what
on the
did you?
Boogie.
Yeah.
We used to have it on this. There was a compilation. It was like one of these now 23. We used to have it on like a now cassette tape when we were kids, and that had like a bunch of kind of summertime hits. So this was the early 90s. It would have had like Any Kamosi, Here Comes the Hot Stepper, Looking in Your Big Brown Eyes, and songs like that. It was just like it was basically the sound of summer, like a little cheeky pop compilation or whatever. And this, I think, was like the first track on there. So that was my first proper introduction to the song proper. I'd first heard the song on Moonwalker. That was the first time I'd ever heard that song, because there's that little retrospective portion of Moonwalker just after he sings Man in the Mirror, where it goes through his career, and it's like a retrospective of the Jackson 5, Jackson's stuff. So there's a little sequence where Blame It on the Boogie plays. And so that was the first time I properly heard the song, but then the first time I heard it fully was on this compilation that we had. And I liked it. I thought it was cool. I think, again, there's a lot of the foundations of the modern Michael Jackson vocal performance were on here. A lot of the hallmarks, the whoops, the hollers, the joy, a lot of that is there. And it's a dance floor filler, but yeah, written by Mick Jackson. And apparently at the time they released both of them at the same time. So there was this kind of battle of the boogies at the time.
Oh, what do
Like,
you mean
so
both of them at the same time?
so they released Mick Jackson's version of this. So the guy who wrote it, his version
Ah,
was out on the charts at the same time as Blame It on the Boogie. Probably in Europe, probably in like England, they probably did that, but like they were kind of on the charts at the same point,
okay, I didn't
I
realize that.
believe. But that's like my least favorite song on there, just because it's the most ubiquitous and it's the most sort of like everyone knows this song. So you don't,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
probably the more. I mean, yeah, it was big in the UK when I was growing up,
yeah, yeah.
and it yeah it's yeah, it was big in the UK, and probably one of the um entering into that whole disco era as well.
Exactly. But this was, if you think about it, this is the twilight of disco, though, really, because it wasn't that disco, the death of disco thing. That was like a year later, where they got a whole bunch of where they burnt a whole load of disco records at the baseball game. I forget what the name is. It's something like the death of disco. But that
Yeah,
because disco, yeah, well,
but I
that
think
kind of,
when you think of disco, like Blondie comes to mind and stuff,
mm,
there was this one had some soul, so they were able to still get away with it, even when you listen
yeah,
to Off
yeah,
the Wall.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You
I mean,
can,
no,
yeah.
like, yeah, and off the wall transcended that death of disco thing, which in itself was actually, it's kind of funny because I've seen Billy Corrigan come out and say something about the death of rock and roll and all that type of stuff. And actually any reaction, I find any reaction to like a black art form as like this has ruined a white art form, or a predominant, well, even though rock and roll isn't a white art form, whatever, but we won't go there. But like any reaction to that, like what's his name from Kiss saying like hip hop doesn't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it feels very anti-black. I'm just saying that. It's always like it's very anti-black. It just is what it is. Like, oh, hip hop doesn't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay, who started rock and roll? Shut your mouth. Anyway, Chuck Berry would like to have a word with you. But yeah, so Blame It on the Boogie was very prototypical kind of disco, four on the floor kind of thing. But then, like I said at the beginning, the album gets moving for me, would push me away rather.
Yeah, what did you make of that?
I love it. It takes me to being a kid every time I hear it. The intro, sleepy strings, you just feel like you're on a magic carpet, man. You really do feel like you're on a magic carpet ride. And that's why I like, spare a thought for arrangers, string arrangers, and people who come in and put that extra sauce on a song. Back in the day, look, producers and beat makers we kind of have lost that thing of these different components to a song, because now the producer is expected to be like, oh, I'm gonna do the strings and I'll arrange the strings. No, there were specific people whose job it was to come in and arrange the strings, and you'd overdub that. There'd be overdubs, and that was a whole separate thing. There'd be people whose job it is to arrange the horns. Like, that's a separate job. So with this, the arrangements are just gorgeous. So that whole, and the song goes on a journey. It starts in this really sleepy place, and then Michael's vocal and the lyrics, they just take you to this place. He's using his falsetto in there. And I think he's sung like this, a little bit like this on some of the previous albums, but I mean on like the on Going Places and the Jacksons, the 76 Jacksons album, but like not like this, like really going in. This is him, his voice fully broken. This is the mature modern Michael Jackson voice, adult Michael Jackson voice, rather, in its kind of pomp.
Do you think he tried to recreate some of this in childhood?
Do you know what? You've got a good ear. You've got a very good ear. You've got a very good ear, because actually, I think of childhood when I think of this song, the arrangement. And childhoods, look, I kind of go back and forth on like, did Michael Jackson get worse as a vocalist? Did he get better? And that's almost sacrilege, because he's one of the best vocalists ever. But it's like, because of the vocal brand of Michael Jackson, which is Shamon, we don't really associate his later work with like balladeer, like crooning, or giving you like vocal stylings. But this and Childhood have a lot of connective tissue. The string arrangement and him singing in that register, because it's quite a high, it's quite a high song. So yeah, there's a lot of that's a really good ear on your part.
But I think what you notice from this would be the musicality. I mean, the fact that you talked about those who had the horn arrangements and the string arrangements, and it's as though in this album he allowed those guys to shine, and he but as he got close, as he did his more of his solo stuff, it's almost like, I don't want to be overshadowed. I'm going to do everything, do the top box and to give you the melody and make it more. I was in the car with my son this morning, and what was I playing? I can't remember what we were playing. I think I was playing something, or maybe Levert, and he plays the bass and the lead guitar, and he says that doesn't sound like a real instrument. It sounded programmed. I'm using programming. And I think sometimes when you listen to some of this stuff, it's like he could say, "Yep, I can hear the sax, I can hear the horns, I can feel it feels natural as me as a musician," compared to what Michael kind of moved on to, where let's just program everything, make it perfect.
And that just became, I think, the nature of music production and the sound. It's like, it's why, and it's symptomatic of changing of eras, changing of guards. Like, if someone came in doing an album full of standards, they're going to be seen as Jamie Cullum. They're going to be seen as doing that thing. If you don't have programmed drums, the radio or the algorithm is not going to prioritize you, really, because they're going to be like, what is this? Oh, this isn't the sound of now. And as we're leaning into the 90s, things, and even in the 80s, you talk about Levert, but from like maybe like mid 80s onwards, Lindrum became the thing. Like, we're not talking about live musicians so much as we're talking about live musicians in conjunction with a Lindrum. Prince's whole sound, you know, that kind of detuned Lindrum, or the I think it's the what did he have, the DMX or something like that. And we're talking about live drums in conjunction with that, as opposed to someone on the guitar, a loose drum, a loose, looseness of drums in one breath, or a song like "Push Me Away," which is just a ballad with strings.
Yeah, but did
You
you
know,
was that Tito that had? And then what I loved about "Push Me Away," as you mentioned, is that it felt like Tito had a solo. I'm assuming that was Tito playing the guitar, but there was a solo part. There was like, okay, Mike, stop singing. Let's hear the music, and then give it space. Okay, now let's hear the guitar
yeah,
doing just
I
singing
think,
it.
I think because they also have Paul Jackson on this album. I think he's worked on other albums. He's worked on Thriller and Off the Wall. So he might have. I'm not sure who exactly played what.
I
Um,
would have thought it would be
but
Tito, but
it probably. Look,
who's
I want to give Tito his credit. And it may well have been.
it was
Um,
Paul Jackson guitar. Okay, no, Paul Jackson was 3, 5, and 7. So track
so
3
it would have been
was
Tito.
things I do. So pop, um, Tito's guitar and backing. So
It could have
okay,
been Michael
there's
Cimbello as well.
there's Ronald Batista did guitar in 1 and 2,
Yeah,
and Michael Sambello did the guitar
yeah,
1 and 2. So no one, yeah, it's. I would have thought they would have given Tito's a chance, but either case, it was
yeah.
the fact that go ahead and I mean, you do not miss the fact that they're listing the musicians, like he played the
I love
guitar, he
that.
played,
I
because
love
then
that.
you go into the 90s and there's generally almost a
They don't do that.
production and programming by one person, and then
Yeah.
that was we missed the sound, the uniqueness of these guys. I think I saw a video of I can't remember the name of the bass player now, and I'll find it. He did the bass for I sent it to my kid as well.
What,
He
for
did the
D'Angelo?
he did the bass for Happy, and he never played the same notes at all.
You mean Pharrell's Happy? You mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pharrell's Happy. Okay, I'll
Mm.
send it. And but what I'm just saying is that's the stuff that has been missed out when you're listening to musicians. Okay, who's this? Nathan East. Yeah,
Okay.
Nathan East. He said, Did you know that the bassist Nathan East on Get Lucky didn't
Hmm.
repeat a single bass pattern during the recording?
Mm. So they're playing for the whole track, and
But he's, and then
yeah.
also I remember Cameo when I interviewed them. Well,
Mm.
they're called the Word Up Story. They said the 7-inch, the extended version of She's Strange,
Hmm.
that was them playing live throughout the whole recording
Amazing.
of it. But
Amazing.
I say this to go back to say "Push Me Away" on this Destiny's album, is that you've got all these great musicians actually featured on the album, and it gives it its life. That's why you're going back and discovering an album from '78, and 20 years later, and thinking, "Wow, this sounds rich." It's
Yeah.
because of the care they put in there.
Yeah. And you couldn't. I mean, look, they had different constraints, didn't they? They didn't have the ability to loop up 4 bars.
Mhm.
They didn't have the ability to do that. Like, so you had to play the whole way through, and actually, I suppose that makes you tighter because you're rehearsing. You're rehearsing before you commit the backing track, because tape is expensive. So you're not just going to be like mucking around. You're going to have done your know your charts and all that, and then you come in and you rehearse, and you're playing as a band. And it's funny because looking at some of these players, they went out with them on tour, like Michael Boudica, Phil Gaines, Michael Cimbello, even on I think it's on the Triumph, the Triumph tour, because the Triumph live album. Is it Triumph live album? Yeah, there is. And or the Jacksons live rather, he shouts all of these guys out. So these are almost like cast members who have come with them for the ride. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that your son noticed that, and that the whole thing about feel, because we've been spoiled from the introduction of the drum machine and programming that we can do that, because it just takes a lot of the stress out. You can you can play 4 bars, loop it up, and an audience might not notice on the radio, but but actually, when you look back in the annals of time, albums like this just live and live, and they live because there's a certain craftsmanship that goes into making albums like this.
Next track on the album is "Things I Do for You." What did you make of that?
It wasn't my favorite when I heard it, but it's one that I'll just have in the background. And no, it's one that I'll have in the background, and I enjoy it when it comes on, but it's not like my favorite track. And funny enough, I think Michael Jackson still had it as part of his tour set. So when he does the Bad tour, if you watch any of those kind of performances, he'll play this "Things I Do for You," and it's cool. It's got a great horn section in it, a great like middle break section, and the lyrics are cool. People all over the world are the same everywhere I go. It's like, it's cool, but it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite song on the album, but it's cool. It's cool. It's one of those, because the album is so short. It was only like 8 songs, right? It's like there's no skips. Like, I'd never skip it, because when I play this album, I play it like front to back and just enjoy it, because it's like half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that. And but I would skip this song, but it's like, it's not my favorite.
Shake Your Body to the Ground. I've got the extended version album, and it it goes on for a while. But that song, I think Michael, he still did it when he was doing his soloist tours.
Yeah,
this is one of those songs that he really appreciated.
And it feels like such a Michael song. The percussion, the production, the percussiveness. I think
and he wrote it with Randy. This is his. And he's singing it, so it feels as if this was his song, because he still plays it. I think even if you don't know any of the Jackson stuff, if you hear this, you'd know it. It just when he does it, when he did his Dangerous, I think his bad tour. The bass and that.
The bass and the groove, and also I think Questlove does a really good musical analysis of this, because he took out his drum kit and just showed, like, this isn't just one drummer playing this. This is like overdubs. It's got overdubs to it, because it's like playing it as it is like one thing, but it's like it's got overdubs with the hi-hats, which give it a cool polyrhythm. But it's not like a regular drummer just drumming this. There's some overdubs with the hi-hats, and Questlove, and I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, but he's saying for like 78, that's kind of revolutionary to be doing that type of stuff. And there was another guy on YouTube. YouTube, on Instagram. I wish I remembered his name, but he was talking about the complexities or the innovation of the production of this song. But it has a lot of hallmarks of Michael Jackson. Like, even the weird cadence of "let's dance, let's shout, shake your body down to the ground." That's like, people weren't doing stuff like that. That just felt, and it feels really Michael. But I love the lyric. Even the lyric is kind of nonsensical. I don't know what's gonna happen to you, baby, but I do know that I love you. You walk around this town with your head all up in the sky, and you do know that I want you. Like, I get it, but it's also like, it's kind of abstract in some ways, but very kind of par for the course of like Michael lyricism. It's like, it makes sense, but then it kind of also doesn't make sense. Like, but it's melodically, and it's something that is like an earworm and gets in your ear. It's instant. It's just instant, and the simplicity of it is irresistible.
Yeah. But it does sound like a concert song. especially if you want the musicians to shine. And you just keep going with the bass going, and he can go around and walk around and say,
Yeah,
take a break and stuff like that. It feels like
yeah,
you can play it on the tour.
100%. And hence why this is like the fact that there's like a 7 inch that is like extended is a recognition of, it's almost like a anticipation of what would later become breakbeat culture
A
in hip
12
hop.
inches, 8.8 minutes and 38 seconds. I've got that
There you
on.
go. There you
It
go.
goes on.
But just that fact that like you would make an extended version because you'd know DJs would want something for people to dance to. And
Yeah.
this is pre Grandmaster Flash introducing the you know, his technique of like that his merry-go-round technique of you know, extending records and extending breaks, that they're giving DJs like an extended runway to keep people dancing. I mean, the only comparable thing to this thing is I remember when I was a kid and I would spend summers in Texas. And I remember one of my fondest memories is driving around with my Aunt Veda, and she played not just Knee Deep, the extended version in the car. And we would have this whole car journey. And it's like that version, I think it's like 20 minutes. It would just go on, funky as hell. And the fact that there's a really extended version of just Knee Deep is just like similar to this. Like there's a 12
Mm,
inch version that goes on for 8 minutes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, love
It,
this
yeah,
song, the classic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, definitely a good one. We started with this, and this is the title track,
Hmm.
Destiny. And I'll be honest, I hadn't heard it um before. I can't remember hearing it before.
Hmm.
But the moment I heard it after listening to this album, it became my favorite song on the album.
Hmm.
And it was just yeah, even though we talk about the lyrics and stuff, but there was something about how especially if you watch the video, which I posted, is that he's singing and the brothers are just like, yeah, Mike, just do your thing. And then he almost at the end like, no, I need to dance, I need to get up and kick my leg and do my kick, the kung fu
Yeah,
kick, and
yeah.
and just say, and I'm sure that there's some soul in what I'm singing here. And it is almost like the brothers know, yeah, we can't hold you back, we
We
can't
can't
hold you
hold this
back.
guy back. Yeah. I'd never seen that. I don't think I'd ever watched that piece of footage before. So I'm glad that you sent it and used it as like the calling card for this conversation. But it's good, and it's also good because it's live. He's not singing to a track, which is like when you did TV appearances during the 70s, everything was to a track or you're lip syncing because you just had to. Like people didn't sing live like that. So to see him doing that is just a joy because Michael Jackson's live voice, as great as the songs are, there's so much fun just listening to him with a live mic. I don't know if you've ever seen the Going Back to Indiana special. Um,
I'm
I think it's
sure.
like from 71.
No, is it?
Um,
Okay, well, I'm not sure.
it's got like the whole thing's got like, it's got like the skits with like Bill Cosby and other things,
Mm,
but it's kind of based around the album, the live album they did, and the whole special they did around that. But anyway, there's a rehearsal of I Want You Back in that. And for anyone in the chat who hasn't seen it, but I doubt that there's anyone in this chat who hasn't seen it because you guys know more about me, teaching me stuff all the time. He sings I Want You Back, and on the second verse he does a little riff which is like, oh, that's why your mic's on. That is why your mic is on, because you're giving us these little things that we wouldn't get on the records. You're playing around and you're giving us that soul. Listen to it. Listen to it. He's in this blue, they're in these blue outfits with these like little yellow sunshine neck kind of ties or whatever. And it's it's very much what we're talking about here with this Destiny performance. It's live. The mic is on. He's expressing himself. And it's really good. It's really, really good. I love this song so much.
yeah, but it's And I think this is where the issue we had with
Mhm.
labels trying to say, how do we sell this music, whether it's black music stuff, let's
Mhm.
call it R&B and send it to black
Mhm.
radio. But you listen
Mhm.
to Destiny and it doesn't sound like a song that would be playing on black radio. It doesn't sound like stuff
No.
that the Temptations are singing. This sounds
No.
very much like the Carpenters could have sang it. So, and I'm saying the Carpenters,
Yeah.
if they were around that time,
If they're around
or
time, yeah.
Simon and Garfunkel or stuff like
Yeah.
that. It
Or the
sounded like
beginning sounds like a
anyone could.
James Taylor, like James Taylor could have sang it, or yeah, you know, I know exactly what you mean. What separates it though is when it gets to the
The,
funkier
the,
part.
the funkier part, yeah.
Yeah, with that whole "this life you're living is dangerous." That is so
The
Michael.
Dangerous. I'm like,
I
okay, so
know,
he must
I
have.
know, I know. It's anticipating that dangerous thing, but it was so intrinsically Michael, that latter half of it. But the first bit, it feels quite nice, middle of the road, put on the radio. And that's the good thing about this album. One, it's brevity of this album is that it's not a long album, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. But this song um improves by going into that funk pocket later down the later in its journey, you know.
I
Yeah,
think it's
listen.
yeah. So I mean, definitely my favorite on the album, without a doubt.
Mhm.
Bless his soul. What did you make of that?
Love it. And what there's a theme with these lyrics, which is kind of a theme that I think they started with their first epic album. They delved into on going places, and they've kind of it's kind of crystallized here, and then would later go on into his later work. But it's this sort of semi autobiographical kind of thing, and it's like because you could knowing what we know about Michael Jackson now, it kind of you can see like a kind of introspection. I try to do what's right for me, but no one sees the way I sees. Uh, and I try to please them so, but how far can this pleasing go? And then I think it's Jackie, something soon to come over you. You got to do what's right for you, and
Oh, was
that
that Jackie?
lyric.
'Cause I didn't know which brother jumped in. So that was Jackie. Because it
I
felt
think it was
like,
Jackie.
because remember, it felt like, "Will you be there?" That's when Jermaine used to be in the group.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
that was
yeah, yeah.
Jackie.
I'll be there.
Okay,
That
okay.
I'll be there. Thing. I'm
I'll be
pretty sure
there.
that's
Yeah.
Jackie. And Jackie normally has quite a high register, but I'm pretty sure that that's Jackie on that because I know Tito's voice, and it's not Randy. Um, yeah, I think it's a Jackie vocal on that. And but correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Um, and I think it's a lot of introspection, and that's one of the themes for this part of the album. Actually, if you think about the last half, from Blame It on the Boogie to Push Me Away to Things I Do for You, Shake Your Body Down to the Ground, they're actually about relationships or a woman or kind of standard love song stuff. And this album from Destiny, Bless His Soul, and the other songs, it's introspective. It's about it's about me, it's about what I want to do. Um, Whereas the other half is a lot of about you and her. Um, so the and that introspection, that kind of introspection is a theme that would bring us into is very prevalent on like Thriller. It's very prevalent
Mhm.
on Bad, and it's very prevalent on the rest of his kind of music. The introspection. I'm being set
Mhm.
upon. I'm an outcast. I feel the weight of the world, and there's all these pressures, and I'm trying to punch through those pressures. So it's like introspection and self analysis in that way. But yeah, Bless His Soul is a really beautiful song.
But I think
Um,
what I liked about it too was the
uh,
fact that it did feature Jackie, because there's something if I know, one of the things that I've never been a big fan of, and I've
Mm.
spoken to groups about it. I never liked the SWV just having Coco
Coco.
doing just singing all the songs, even though she's
Hmm.
probably one of the best '90s singers out
Mm.
there. I always loved the fact that I wanted to hear more Lily and Taj, so that
Yeah.
we can appreciate Coco more. Or the same thing that happened with Guy. It was pretty much Aaron singing and everyone.
Mm.
And so one of the things about I started listening to the album, it was like Michael singing everything. So pretty much it could have
Mm.
just been Michael Jackson and the Jacksons because
Yeah.
it was pretty much him. But when you did have, I think they did more in Triumph where they all sang a little bit more. But in this one, hearing it share like that, it gave it a little bit more. It made it a little bit more
Yeah.
interesting. And then
Well, well,
mm,
no, go on, go on.
no, no, oh, no, I was going to go into when he does the dangerous part. That then sounded like old school Michael. And when I say old school, this was the solo Michael.
Yeah.
Dangerous. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost
dangerous.
like
Yeah.
it became. I could see him almost like this is what he came out to be. Actually,
Yeah.
more on that dangerous album where he was a little bit more forceful with his singing. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but as I said, having the variety was really I really appreciated this on the song.
Mm. It was I think that's a good point that you made about the sharing the workload with vocalists where you spread it out. But because it actually does help you appreciate how good the lead singer is if they are that good. Because I mean there's groups where everyone is of equal prowess, but I think in the Jacksons, less so with the Jackson 5 because you had Jermaine, but with the Jacksons, it's like Michael Jackson is out and out the vocalist, he's the best vocalist. Like Tito, I think a time I remember Tito taking a vocal was or sharing some of the vocal was on there's a song called Man of War on Going Places. And Tito has the lead verse. He has the first, he sings the first line. You think your way is the best, well, you're wrong. Oh, sorry, you think your way is the best way of all. So he has the first line, and you kind of like Tito's a cool vocalist, but he was never gonna be the lead singer. Same as Marlon. They're not the voices aren't as strong now. To me, the vocalists in the Jacksons, the male vocalists are Michael, Jermaine, and Jackie's falsetto is crazy, but
Yeah,
like, there's no equivalent of Jermaine in the Jacksons group, in the
yeah.
Jacksons incarnation. Yeah.
But then also, if you listen to, you listen to Jackie, and he gives you that Motown vibe, but
Soulful.
without the soulful. But he didn't feel. It didn't seem as if he was straining his voice. He felt like he was able to be measured as
Mm.
he's delivering it, knowing, trusting his range, and just sitting in a pocket that's like, okay, this is good. He doesn't have the power like Michael, who can go high,
Mm.
low. He can just
Mm.
give you anger. Jackie just stayed consistent. But I
Yeah.
think this goes down to who's producing the track,
Yeah.
because the producer then thinks, because Brian Alexander Morgan, for instance, was like, Coco is the best singer. I'm just going to use her, and you girls are just going to sing the backing vocals. I don't.
Mm.
There's no up, not up to debate.
Hmm.
And I remember Full Force talking about when they were producing the Backstreet Boys,
Hmm.
and they got I can't remember his name now. One of the guys who doesn't sing at all. They're like, no, we want you to sing because
Was
there's
it
something
Howard?
about,
Was it Howard or
maybe it was
someone?
Howard. Yeah,
Yeah.
Howard. And
Yeah.
they said, yeah, we want to write a part for you because, and then it gives it a different feel when you're listening to somebody who normally doesn't do so. So
Yeah.
I wish a producer would say, okay, and they did it excellently with Boys to Men. Okay,
Hmm.
Nate, you start. Sean, you
Hmm.
bring it in.
Hmm.
Then Mike, you can just hold it steady. All right, one ear,
Hmm.
take it home, and
Hmm.
and that build up. And I think Levert did very similar to that. Gerald
Hmm.
was restrained, and everyone fills in the gap, and then he takes it home. And I
Mm.
think there's something about a producer who can look at the vocals and say, okay, we don't want to oversaturate Michael because it could easily be just the Michael and a feature in the Jacksons. But if we get everyone else to have a little bit in there, it makes us appreciate it more.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, no. I think you're right, and that's made me think. Look, from my background, makes me think about directors. The best directors to me are people who they can just bring up. They go, okay, cool. This is what I have assembled. I've got a Ferrari here. I've got a Ferrari of an actor. I've got a Buick of an actor, and I've got a Prius of an actor. They're different cars. They do different things, but I'm going to bring out the best in them in all of those different things. They're not going, oh, this look at this is a Prius. Oh, I'm working with a Prius rubbish. No, they go, I've got this thing. I'm going to make this thing work for what I need it to do. And I think that's what a producer, that's what talent management is. Going, this is what's assembled. I'm going to bring the best out of it. Even if it's a small thing, I'm going to bring the best out of that person. And I'm trying to think in like modern R&B groups or even R&B groups from the 2000s where you had an assembly of vocalists who were all on the same level or they were all as equally like
Yeah, I mean, the only I was going to say, I mean, the only group that really took advantage of majority of the singers, I mean, Blackstreet, because you had Teddy, but apart from Teddy not being a
you
main
had cast
vocalist,
changes as well. You had different cast changes because you had Hollister, Hollister left,
Levi
and then you had
left, yeah,
Chauncey,
Eric and stuff, but
yeah.
All Night Dancing.
Night
What did you
Dancing.
make?
That one, because I know where it sits in the album. It feels like it feels like the last song before the party's gonna think, and that's great arrangement. It's great album arrangement because it feels like my body knows, oh man, like, well, it's almost time to go home. It's almost time to go home. And like visually I see that, physiologically I feel that. There's something about it where it's like, okay, cool, we just had Bless the Soul, that's cool. And one thing, just as a note, this album, the great thing about it, and with a lot of great albums, is the sequencing. All the songs kind of bleed into one another. So Things I Do For You bleeds into Shake Your Body Down to the Ground. So you feel like they're playing it in one setting. So songs bleed in. The mixing of it. I'm sure that's something that might have started in the earlier 70s. I know that, for instance, Stevie did that a lot on that kind of trio of like Grammy winning solo albums. Songs would bleed into one another. So All Night Dancing, there's a little bleed from Bless His Soul into that. And it feels like, oh, we're just gonna have one last good dance before we go home. And the lyrics is quite interesting listening to them because, and it's something from this period of songwriting. People talk about burning the disco down, which is because he says I'm going to call there's a line in there about the calling engine 109, like the fire truck's going to come to extinguish this disco. And what do we have on the next album? We have Burn This Disco Out. So that is like a lyrical theme of like, I mean, obviously Rod Temperton wrote that, where Burn This Disco Out, but there's a theme of like, oh, our party's so great, it's going to have to be shut down by the fire department. And the song is what it says, it's All Night Dancing. It's a floor filler. It's disco-y, but it's got a bit of like, kind of like,
it has like a church,
southern.
It has like, come on, it has that kind of church.
It's got a southern church feel to it at the same time. Some call and response stuff in there, and it's cool, man. It's like as I said, none of these songs I would ever skip. I'd never skip any of these songs. So I like some more than others, but the brevity of the album means that you're not going to skip nothing. But yeah, All Night Dancing's cool. But it has the feeling. My body goes, we're about to wind down soon. We're gonna have one last dance, but the party's about to kind of come to a halt.
The song that starts off like a James Bond theme song. That's what you get for being polite. What did you make?
Love it. It's one of my favorite Michael Jackson or Jackson related songs. Again, continuing that autobiographical introspective thing, because the theme of this half of the album, but then also the introspective stuff that he would later go on to just mine to perfection. The fact that he's writing about a character called Jack, which is like a thinly veiled kind of point to himself. Jack still cries day and night. Jack's not happy with his life. And even that melody, using that quite cleverly, was na 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 na, which is like a kid's kind of taunt. The employing that melody, which is like the cadence of a kid's taunt for a song, is great. It actually reminds me of it's a tiny little thing, but it reminds me of the genius of We Are the Champions, because they do a similar thing. Freddie Mercury does a similar thing in that. You know, We Are the Champions. It's a piece, it's a genius little bit of songwriting. No time for losers, because we are the champions. Because that is basically going na 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 na.
Chanting, yeah.
So this thing here is using a kind of children's playground taunt. It does this thing where you're like, oh, he's talking about the younger version of himself. He's talking about the childlike version of himself. But he could also just be talking about him as a 20-year-old. But there's a thing of looking to the wounded child. And I think a lot of the time in Michael Jackson's lyrics, for better or worse, he's always trying to speak to that 11-year-old in some way. He want to do this, he want to do that, he want to be kind, but ends up flat for love. And that's the whole thing. And it's this theme that Michael Jackson talks about through a lot of his stuff. He's doing stuff for love, and he's not getting back what he wants.
It sounds like it was written by him and Randy, but it sounds like a Michael solo style song. It sounds like stuff that it didn't. Yeah, it's funny because when you look at the ones that he did with his brother Randy, it did feel like it could have easily have gone on one of his albums. But I wonder what would have happened if Quincy had produced it? What would if it was on the Off the Wall album? Would it have come out the same way?
That's an interesting question. I reckon this would have been one that Quincy cut, because he would have said it's schmaltzy. I don't think Quincy was a big fan of sentiment in that way and schmaltz. He would allow for like one of those themes, but not several of them. Not too much. Enough introspection, but not too much. Like we have, all right, let's just look at Off the Wall. She's Out of My Life might be characterized as schmaltzy. One, because he's crying, and because it's the most the song that's drenched in the most indulgence emotionally, because he's really going into it. But I don't think Quincy would have allowed it on the album, as great of a song as it is. But I reckon he would have said, listen, we're trying to take you away from this childlike.
Yeah, we have to remember he started when he was like 5 or 6.
Exactly.
So that people who had grown up and it's like Justin Bieber, people see him as a kid, or Tevin Campbell.
Exactly. And so Quincy's whole thing, in addition to like producing great records, was the branding thereof. He was like, I want to make you sexy. I want to make you a man. So even like on Off the Wall, he said, there's all these conversations about Quincy dropping songs by a third to give, by like minor third, to give Michael Jackson just more headroom on the vocal, to help him like to just extend his range and give something different. And even the fact, just some of the arrangement and the arrangement of some of those songs on Off the Wall were deliberately designed to showcase a mature vocal, but then lyrically as well. Yeah, I don't think Quincy would have gone for this as good as it is. But it feels.
No, I'm just saying, because it also has a melody, sort of a melody. I mean, if you listen to Bobby's the Bobby album and the 7 tracks Teddy produced, there are a number of tracks where it was like Teddy's playing the keyboards, and I'm just allowing the song to you've sang, let's just have a little small instrumental. And there was a lot of space for that, for the musicians to shine, and stuff, which subsequent Michael songs didn't have anymore. There was no space for a nice little solo, like little piano there, or and I appreciated this in this. And I'm thinking, what? Can you think of any song that that he's not singing and they have a gap? Because I don't know if that was the end or after this, whether we were allowed to have he was allowed to have just space for
No, I mean,
a solo.
yeah, you mean for a musician to have a solo?
Yeah, for the musician to have a solo. Um,
Given to Me is an example of that.
okay, so
Yeah,
yeah, so we're thinking about the stuff with Slash. Yeah, but yeah, Given to Me.
yeah, Given
That
to Me,
was
that's a grunge song, and you get the, Slash gets his chance to
yeah,
play at
yeah.
the end of that. But in terms of like,
Yeah, that you're good call. That was probably the only one
yeah,
that he
but I
is that
think
he.
it's because New
Okay,
Jack
Billie
Swing.
Jean. Okay, so no, Beat It,
But yeah, Beat It
Beat It.
is a great
Yeah,
example of that. Yeah,
yeah, Beat It
but
is
that's in the
probably
middle. That's in the middle. The old, all the kind of like, it's a solo, but it's not with yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's a great example.
But then
Beat
again,
It
this is these songs that we mentioned. It's different when it's mellow, and it's almost like just relax. There's no rush.
yeah, but in the Quinty era, sure. The reason why I said Given to Me was because that was after the Quincy era, and it's like
Mm.
from Dangerous on, there aren't very many moments for just like, oh, we're just gonna have an 8-bar solo for a
Mm.
musician. But I also think production and the style changed, and the requirements of radio for some of the what would have been the singles. Does Black or White have a pocket? No, Black or White has a rap. So the rap, yeah, if you think about that
Mm.
rap, protection for gangs, clubs and nations, cause Greek, human relations, that might have been in a different time. That might have been a
Yeah,
guitar
yeah,
thing.
but
But
the song sounds so urgent. Think
yeah,
of Anniversary,
yeah,
ballad, and then did it, and I mean, just giving that space, and
yeah.
people appreciate it.
Or
Um,
Loving You by Tony. Loving You has like some pockets of because I was listening to that yesterday off of that 96 album that they did. Yeah, you got pockets of
mm,
playing, but you're talking about a band
yeah,
versus a behemoth, an actual juggernaut who has these different requirements. Like and this is also something that would have plagued him as a musician, as a creator in his later career, is chasing blockbuster numbers. Because when you're chasing numbers, it forces you down these narrow creative corridors, because you're like, I can't go this way because that's going to alienate this lot, and I can't go this way because I need to catch this lot. So you find your pocket of safety, as it were. Because there was no, when you think about it, there wasn't really crazy experimentation after Dangerous. Because Dangerous, as I've said, is the greatest New Jack Swing album of all time, but it's not innovative, if you see what I'm saying. All it does is, what it does brilliantly is it takes New Jack Swing and elevates it sonically to its highest level. But if you listen to history, he's not doing anything he's kind of riding a wave. You've got songs like Too Bad, This Time Around, which are very de rigueur for the time. They're Michael Jackson versions of mid-90s boom bap hip hop songs. And then by the time we hit what's this one, Invincible, it just, yeah, these are Michael Jackson, Rodney Jerkins records, but they're not innovative, and they fit a very kind of cool pocket. Whatever Happens has a nice solo on it, but that's because you've got a musician's musician. You've got Carlos Santana on that, so you
yeah,
can't have Carlos Santana on there and not have him play a solo at the end,
yeah. I mean,
But
yeah. So I think what we the $1 million question is that if
mhm,
Thriller's numbers were
mm,
if he didn't have the Thriller number, so if he just did the song
mhm,
albums, did Thriller, maybe Thriller did double platinum, triple platinum,
mhm,
then he does Bad, and then he gets to the Dangerous or History, and that one does 100 million, would we have gotten a nice chunk of real sort of no pressure songs before he has
Well,
to start chasing his own self?
that's the great what if, because he might still be alive if Thriller doesn't go stratospheric at that time. If Dangerous was the big album, there's so many variables that you'd have to put it into one of these. You put it into Chat GPT or whatever to work out the potential. But if Thriller doesn't happen at the magnitude that happens, Michael Jackson might still be alive. There's a chance that Michael Jackson might still be here with us, because he's not got this juggernaut, this albatross around his own neck, and it's a slower build to the meteoric rise. We might have never had the moonwalk because we might have never had the moonwalk. We might have never had the iconography in the same way. So there's all these variables that you have to kind of, and it's a more interesting career because you're going to you're taking a project that started in 1963, 64, and you're stretching it and making its apex 1991. That's an interesting thing versus like I called the Jackson 5 started moving and grooving around 65, 66, released their first single 69. By 69 to 82, that's 13 years. And he does the moonwalk Motown 25 in 1983. That's 14 years, and he's the biggest star on the planet. And then from probably the point of, let's just say the point of Dangerous, the slide begins, or maybe it's the slide began before that. And when I say slide, I mean like I'm talking about like a slide from the top of the world, and it's a slow one, but it happens. So what you're talking about though, like Michael not making it or reaching his apex till later, as for people who want him here or wanted him here, that's maybe the ideal version of events, because I reckon he'd still be here, but we might not have had that music. So it's interesting because we've talked about it before. We talked about the potential, like what if Invincible had been more experimental, or what if he'd gone back to a blacker sound? We will never know. We will never know. And that's the beauty and tragedy of life at the same time. We can't do a sliding doors on it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna some of every Michael Jackson album. I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT the global sales figure of every Michael global sales figures as a sales note. But what did you make? So if you were to rate Destiny as an album out of 10, what would you give it?
I'd give it like a good 9.5. I think for me, just on nostalgia alone and where it puts me, when I say nostalgia, I mean like nostalgia for my own life, it's a good 9.5. Like it's a really brilliant album. I think it loses points if anything, and it shouldn't be. I mean, if I was going to be really harsh, I was like blame it on the Boogie. It's just it's like the most commercial Jackson's tune next to Can You Feel It. I think it's the most like, oh, that's a Jackson's tune, which people might conflate as just a Michael tune, but that's not really a stick with which to beat a great album. Yeah, I give it a 9.5. I think I love it. I love it a lot, and I play it and don't skip it. But I just want to take a moment because I purposely not looked at the chat sidebar. Yeah, because I love the chat, but I also don't want to constantly be like, oh, sorry, I see this person make a really, really good point. But I've seen Dwayne Adams well says Jamilu has created a more Rhythm Nation vibe for history, which is true, and that's pretty true. And I've often said that like Dangerous was a response to Rhythm Nation, and Control,
who was it?
Bad was.
Yeah, I think I've heard an interview with Jimmy saying that the worst thing that Michael ever did was to listen to Rhythm Nation and wanted to. I think he appreciated the whole theme of the military stuff with Rhythm Nation, the the whole fight in darkness and oppression,
The visual,
and
yeah,
he just thought, wow, this is, I want
this is
that.
it. He wants a
And
piece of that because, yeah,
and you know, and in some ways Dangerous was his sort of the
was his
sound,
response.
um
The
you know,
industrial sound of Dangerous.
but
And it's
yeah.
interesting because even the industrial thing, if you look at the album cover, there's a factory nestled, there's some kind of factory thing nestled in there.
Yeah,
And when I listen
yeah.
to the Dangerous title track, I I think of, oh, he's in a factory somewhere. I hear people clanging on pipes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All of that military sound. But
Yeah,
that's a good
I
point.
think for
But
me that was the biggest mistake, was that he was trying to chase that sound, and you
mm,
know, you know, just looking at his sales. So his of course, Thriller is 100 over 100 million.
mhm,
Bad is about 35 million.
mhm.
Dangerous is about 32 million.
Crazy.
Off the Wall is about 25 million.
Crazy.
History is 23 million.
Mm,
Invincible is about 10 million
mm,
worldwide. Even
mm,
Blood on the Dance for 6 million worldwide. And then his other albums, that's, you know, Ben was 2 million.
mm. Ben
The
got to 2
Michael
million
yeah, yeah, 72, yeah, because
because
they did a lot of
Motown,
reissues.
they did reissues, but Motown were quite notorious for not releasing their actual sales numbers. There was a whole thing about that because I think they would themselves issue, they wouldn't, the RIAA wouldn't give Motown their certifications. Motown did their own. Like, so when you see the Jackson 5 of Gold Records, that's not
Mm.
RIAA certification, that's Motown doing it. And I think it might have been a tax thing that they might not have
It
wanted.
it would have been, oh, yeah, because even when I spoke to Intro, they were like, sometimes we didn't get our plaques because the labels were like, you know, because if we have to sell a certain number, then it triggers something, so they'll just
Exactly,
undershoot.
yeah. So that's why when I heard 2 million for Ben, I was like, really? Because I had Ben as a kid. I had Ben before I had Destiny. And I never thought about that album in terms of sales. And I just know that Motown were historically quite opaque with their sales figures. But you just listing out the numbers is insane. The fact that those albums did, Michael Jackson's fully a blockbuster kind of dude.
Yeah, I would say that with the movie coming out,
Mm.
and the
Oh,
trailer looks awesome, I
yeah.
think his whole catalog would just would just be go through the roof, because I think because as I said, for me, listening to yeah, I'm just looking. Yeah, Off the Wall actually is 20 million worldwide, and Bad is actually 45 million worldwide.
Mm.
Invincible,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I think just listening to just being able to see the stuff, because like I said, listening to this Jackson stuff, I'm like, you
Mm.
know, the songs I didn't really realize. And so ahead of this, after this, I listened to Triumph,
Mm.
and then I
Great
also
album.
listened to the Jacksons 2300 Jackson Street, just
Cool
to say,
album.
let me just
Cool
listen,
album. Cool album.
just to appreciate and listen to some of those things. Then
Yeah.
but I think people, you know, big fans should go back and start listen to Got to Be There,
Oh,
Ben, Music and Me, and
Ben
Forever
is a
Michael.
great album. Yeah, Ben is a great album. Milker's 777 said about that Motown album. Motown for Full Records by Michael was so slept on. People Make the World Go Round. That whole album's crazy. From Ben to Greatest Show on Earth. People Make the World Go Round. We've got a good thing going. What goes around comes around. In Our Small Way. Shooby Doo Dah Day. He did a cover of Stevie Shooby Doo Dah Day. Like, Ben as an album is dope. And then Got to Be There is a beautiful album. That title track is incredible. What I would say is about, because I've seen a couple of people say like the film's going to do $1 billion, and I hope it does. I hope the estate does really well. I also hope that maybe the kids, I'm not there I'm not their dad or whatever. I just hope that the kids just don't get in the way of that, because it's just like, don't just listen, just let Branca and them do what they're doing. Branca and them know what they're doing. Don't get in the way. Don't, just stay on one accord. That would be my advice to them. Stay on one accord. Paris, don't be coming out and saying what happened or didn't. Just let it get to 1 billion, because ultimately they are the beneficiaries. But the other thing I'd say is, and I'm sure they're ahead of this, is that you'll have there's a potential for controversy as we approach that April date. And by that, I mean, there's some well-known documentarian. There's a well-known documentarian or infamous documentarian who did a documentary in 2019, a kind of ethically dubious one. You know, and is there a chance that he might pop up with something or whatever? I think for all of Blackdom and all of like Michael's fandom, but particularly like Blackdom, I'm just going to speak for that. It's an event. It's literally just like, yo, what are you wearing to the premiere? What are you wearing to the screening? It's that. It's what version of Mike are you going as? You know what I mean? Are you? And I can't wait for that.
I think unfortunately on TMZ, they are reporting that that Janet saw a family screening of the album, and
with the film.
Janet and Jermaine Jackson clash over Michael by heated phone call after screening.
Oh, you see,
and so it just came out today. So this is just coming out today. So that's definitely making the news rounds today.
But these are the things that we don't need to see, because what we want. So look, I have my thoughts here. I have my thoughts about the film, but I'll keep them because it doesn't help the film. I want the film to do really well. Now for me, because what I will say is this: the Jacksons and American Dream to me is the apex version of the Michael Jackson story. And it's for me because you're getting it in episodically. You're getting Catherine's story, Joe's story in a real kind of cool way. But I thought Wiley Draper and Jason Weaver were incredible embodiments of Michael
Jackson. I think I moved to America in '92.
We spoke about this.
Yeah, when our American Dream came out, it was on ABC. It was just 2 or 3 parter, and it was everyone watched it because it went. The guy who played his dad scared the hell out of me.
Lawrence Hilton Jacobs.
Because he really,
he was brilliant.
But there is a sense where, I mean, Janet, even in page 6. So I know we said TMZ, but page 6 is saying that she wasn't feeling the film. That she reportedly vocal upset about multiple aspects of the film portrayal of her late brother. From her, she says that she was critiquing a lot of the scenes. And it shifted the atmosphere within the family, from celebration to, and Jermaine pretty much wasn't happy with her because it's almost as if my son's doing a great job playing my brother, and you're trying to criticize it.
Yeah, and I think R.I.P. Wiley Draper, Milker's 777 said. And so look, I hear this aspect of it, and this is always going to be a point of contention because Jermaine, I think the success of the American Dream, Jermaine has to take some form of success because he and his wife at the time, they ushered it in, they spearheaded it, but Jermaine's son played one of Jermaine's sons played younger Jermaine in it, Jermaine Jackson Jr., his child with Hazel Gordy, and it's like, oh, now my other son with my other wife is playing Michael. So it's like nepotism much, but look, I want it to be good.
Yeah, as a fan, I think most I would imagine Janet's people will have to come out over the next day or two and say, no, these are rumors. Janet loves the film, because there is one thing to start to just have any disagreement about the film, and then the fans, because at the end of the day, you may not like it, might not be true to the core, but at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it is the first step of celebrating Michael. Now she might be nitpicking on certain aspects of it,
yeah.
um,
Look,
but I don't think it's going to dampen the fans who are interested in seeing it, because they've already started thinking about the second
what they're
part.
yeah, the second part, and you know the politics behind this film, like they've truncated it because there was a lawsuit that from I think the night one of the 93 lawsuits where basically one of the accusers or alleged accusers or whatever was basically forbid the estate from talking or mentioning any of that trial. So they filmed stuff that happened post 88 or post Bad Tour, but it never went to that. So they filmed this and they had to scrap it. So there's a whole bunch of footage that they kind of can't use. And so that's why they had to do reshoots and whatnot. But here's the thing, and this is a really thing that it's the thing that Hollywood has to get a handle on in modern times. It's possible to do, but not impossible. Is like all of these leaks and things that happen, it ruins the thing of going to see the film, these side stories, particularly when you have a family. The Jackson family are up there in terms of their importance to Black American history and American history in total as anyone. They're up there with any, because their stories intertwine with civil rights leaders, because they're from that period of time, and they are actually what rose up out of that post civil rights thing. They were like America's Black family. So in this era, when you get a moment like this, and this is the politics of it, united front is everything. That's why when I saw Catherine speaking, and again, I'm saying this as a fan, it's family business to one degree, but the Jacksons, we all feel like we are family of them. You speaking out of turn, which I think it is speaking out of turn, it's not going to help because you are the ultimate beneficiary of this thing. And like, you've already got, and I'm just going to speak, we're speaking like it's just you and me. You've already got people who are just like, well, you're not his kids. Where's your big nose? You ain't a Jackson. Like you ain't none of you kids are actual Jacksons. I'll say it because that's what everyone thinks. Because we know Black people when we see them, like, or people who are mixed. It's like, you actually, anyway. Point being is that like we want a united front and we all want to come and support it, because it's going to get pilloried from some quarters, and you just want the family to be united. And look, money is at the crux. Just for me as an outsider, I see money being at the crux of a lot of these disagreements and these fallouts. And I've seen a couple people in the chat talk about Branca. Now, I'm a real Branca defender because I know that Michael Jackson wouldn't have risen to those heights, whether it be the ATV catalog or any of his millions that he made in the 80s without John Branca. It seems to the super fan, it seems unfathomable that someone would dare say that, because it's like Michael would have made it regardless. And look, on talent alone, sure, but the business savvy of someone like John Branca, who he let go of in like 1990, really mistakenly, Branca at various times was rehired by Michael because he was like, this is my guy. This is the guy that can bring it back. So what Branca and John McClane did after he died in just rerouting that estate, Michael Jackson would be proud of that. You see what I'm saying? Like, you took something that was floundering, that had lost so much money because of his own carelessness. I'm a Michael fan, but I'll just be really honest. I'm just objective about it. Michael Jackson messed up. I don't want to hear anything.
He was a multimillionaire living like a
billionaire. Exactly. And I don't want to hear anyone say like Sony tried to sabotage his catalog. They might have, but he also willingly refinanced. He actually refinanced the ATV catalog so he could live like a billionaire. Sony didn't. Like, we've got to hold our legends to account. Michael Jackson had bad advisors, and he had bad advisors, and it's like a king who gets rid of the council who are going to tell him. Basically, it's like the Emperor's New Clothes. He had no one saying like, Michael, you shouldn't be doing this. He fired everyone who would. Now, he occasionally brought them back in and then fired them again. But everyone who came into Michael Jackson's orbit, particularly the last few years of his life, whether it be the Spoonbender, Uri Geller, who eventually got him to do the Martin Bashir interview, they were people who just wanted to be in his orbit and they didn't care about the man. So anyway, point being is that Brancar, yeah, his company should get a bit of money for doing the work that they've done, because they've taken this floundering company and made it into a multi-billion entity. And I think, like, you could say that they got rid of they sold the Beatles catalog back, but like I think it did what it needed to do. It was the jewel in the crown while Michael was alive, but he actually abused that asset that he had. He was also running a theme park in his house, which, you know what I mean? He was running a theme park in his house. He had a house in Century City, which is like the little hideaway that he had. But Michael Jackson can't live like that. He has to have an amusement park. So a lot of Michael Jackson's financial and legal issues were his own fault, and a lot of them also were manipulated by bad actors. And I don't want to go into that, but like,
so since he died in 2009, his estate has generated $3.5 billion.
Exactly, and that's 3.5 billion that I can directly point that at, saying like Brancar and those guys said, what can we do? What's the best way we can rehabilitate this brand and this image? Because mind you, when just before Michael died, there was fever pitch because we were going to have This Is It. But the years before that, post that trial in 2005, he was in Bahrain. He was hiding out and he was broke.
Yeah, and he was $500 million in debt. So because they turned it around into a multi-billion empire. One, because he wasn't spending, but then they were able to say, okay, how do we put things in perspective? Yeah, I mean, his they said his concert film, This Is It, generated 250 million worldwide. His Circus Delay, the Michael Jackson musical on Broadway, on a typical year, his estate earns about 100 million based on the music and licensing stuff as well. I mean, most of us would prefer if Michael was still around generating new stuff, but like everybody, you do need to have. I mean, he was a very savvy business person. You know, he's the one that outbidded Paul McCartney for the catalog, and he was buying up all the different things. It's just that, as you said, he had Frank DeLeo, the manager. He had very savvy people around him. So when he's thinking, they're saying this is a good idea, but this. When he let go of everybody, as you mentioned, it was spend, and it was everyone was a yes man, and that's
he let go of Frank DeLeo and John Branca at the turn of the 90s. He went with Sandy Gallin. Sandy Gallin was David Geffen's guy, and I think that plan worked for about 5 minutes because Dangerous did well, and he had the whole, he had his Pepsi money, he had the Super Bowl. Michael Jackson was still Mike, but everything got derailed by
after
93.
That 93 trial,
and actually, but that is, to me, it's like you don't have anyone in your court going, this, you see that, it's not this, this isn't a good idea. Because mind you, super fans might not have the objectivity, but I can have an objectivity of just looking at stuff and looking at optics. Michael and Frank DeLeo really controlled the media narrative from the moment they started working together, which was about 84. They were the ones who leaked stories and photos. That hyperbaric chamber photo, they took it and leaked it to the Inquirer because Michael Jackson was a student of P.T. Barnum. He got the idea that let me be bigger than anything. So that photo, he leaked it. The thing with him and Muscles, the boa constrictor, he leaked that. The whole Bubbles thing, it made Michael bigger than life. The problem is, it's the Faustian bargain. If you bargain with the devil, you can't tell the devil how to. You say to the devil, "I want to be the biggest thing ever." You don't get to necessarily control what happens once the genie's out the lamp. And what they didn't really account for was the UK press, because the UK press came up with "Wacko Jacko." That's a UK slogan, and that did some damage, a lot of damage. And then basically, I think, Madonna and him linked up in the early 90s, because I think the
Yeah,
idea was like,
she was supposed to be on Dangerous. Who is it?
no, in the
No, no,
closet,
in
I
the
think.
closet. Yeah,
In the
in the
closet, yeah.
closet. Yeah.
And so they were seen showing up together. I think she connected him with a stylist. So there's some images of the early 90s of like Michael Jackson in like these kind of like new kind of more mature outfits, like some leather stuff, and was, getting sexy for like a 30-year-old. But that didn't work out necessarily. And the problem is, grunge happened, gangster rap happened, and by 91, 92, basically it's no surprise that Nirvana's Nevermind, I think, knocked Dangerous off the charts, because that was a sign of the coming changing of the guard. And Michael Jackson was still Michael Jackson, but in terms of controlling the media narrative and the whole Peter Pan thing, it wasn't sexy by 91, 92, because it just wasn't. And so when what happened, of facts of which we'll never fully know what happened, but there's very clearly an extortion story there. If you read any of the files, there's definitely an extortion story. But I'm African, in it, so I say African parents, and like some of the original victim blamers, they'll be like, why? They'll say like, how to Michael? They'll be like, how did you allow yourself to get into this position? You know what I mean? Anyway, I say all that to say, I want the film to do really well, and I can't wait to put on my glad rags and go and support like everyone and all that good stuff. And I just think, as fans, I think it's important everyone just cut out the noise and just go support this thing, and get it to 1 billion.
Yeah.
Because it's only with that kind of groundswell, which will happen. But hearing the stories of the family bickering.
It's strange timing that it's come out at this time. But as we keep saying, I would assume that by tomorrow, Janet would not want to be known as the person who has brought some negativity. So her people will come out and say, no, it's not true, and stuff like that. And she'll the tunes will change, because there's no way she you can't derail the whole thing. But it comes out, it's released worldwide on the 24th of April.
Amazing.
And definitely it will definitely be a big one. But I think this Destiny album, I mean, we may next time do Triumph ahead of the movie, because it's interesting just to see, because Triumph would be an interesting album, because you have Off the Wall that blows up, and then he has to come back and do Triumph. And
he has to put himself back into he has to take himself from being this giant into this kind of smaller, not smaller, but by this point he's had
outgrown his brothers, but he still had to and then we do that, and the impact on the tour. But this definitely I think, just as we wrap up, the fact that what we've noticed was that the moment they gave the brothers full control of the album, put the creative control, they made more headway commercially, as well. And I think the final part is always wondering about what difference would the album have done if Jermaine was still with them, because it always feels as if Jermaine always did not like the fact that Michael blew up, and he probably, it feels, and I don't know, and I'm not saying this to you to be negative to Jermaine, but the narrative has always been, especially when it came out to Word to the Bad, is that I should have had that success. It could have been me. I was the better singer. I could play. Why was it him?
Yeah. He had that line in Word to the Bad. Once you were made, you changed your shade. He did an interview around that time that that song was released, and he said, I'll never forget it because it's in that Magic in the Madness, the J. Randy Taraborelli book. And he says, I could have been mad. I could have been Michael. It was just a case of luck and timing. And it's like, and that's a direct quote that he did. It was just a case of luck and timing. So Jermaine was an old school hater of his brother, and they were super close when they were young, but he was an old school hater and a kind of kick him when he, I mean, look, they all kind of did this because, look, Latoya, when those allegations happened, her and her husband, Jim Gordon, they did a whole campaign in like 93, basically just being like, Joseph did this to me when I was younger, and da 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 da. Jermaine didn't instantly come out and just put up the family shield and say no. And that is just interesting because you kind of ask the questions of how did a family that came up in, nine brothers and sisters in a 2-bedroom house on Jackson Street, how did they get to the point of success where they were bickering like that? But then you could also argue, how do you have this beautiful black kid who goes from 2300 Jackson Street and by 1993 is in the place that he's in, which is just like, it's a mind-blowing American saga in so many respects. And I'm sure, like, as a young black man, as a young black kid, I didn't know how to compute it because I was still in Michael Jackson apex mode. Michael Jackson was everything, and he still is everything to me. But this is American history. These are fascinating conversations, but I'm all for the film being a success. And I've loved having this conversation with you. And like, as always, the chat has like been brilliant, and they've taught me loads of stuff. I've had to restrain myself and not watch what they're saying because they're always saying good stuff. Like Milka's 777 and Tony JC and Antoine Films, all these guys
and everybody. Yeah, no, we always, as I said, and that's why I wanted the comments to show up on it so people can see how engaged everything is. But as I said, it's this was really a great album for me to listen to because I hadn't really listened to this album before. I've heard some of the songs, but not the album in its fullness, and it made me go listen to Triumph and Victory. So we will be back, guys. We will, lead up to the movie. Do Triumph, which came out afterwards, and yeah, I think I would believe that by tomorrow there'll be a different. Janet's publicist would come out and say no, all this was made of film love. It'll be an exciting. There's no how that would be there, but and also the fact that. I would definitely wish that Jermaine would go touring with his brothers, and be part of that whole vibe and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, this has been great, and while Akemnji's out in Los Angeles, we will take advantage of the time difference and be able to. Make this happen in a couple more in a week or two. So
also,
guys,
I just want to say really quickly, because people are talking about Jermaine, my favorite Jermaine song, and people should listen to it, they probably already know it, is Come to Me, off of the Dynamite album. Come to Me is like, it's such a banger. So because I see Milkers was saying, or someone was saying Jermaine could have been as big as Michael. Come to Me is a bad boy song. It's so good. But anyway, I say all that.
Now, my favorite is Don't Take It Personal.
Oh, yeah.
I remember listening to that song in boarding school, and it was, there's something, it reminds me of You're Not My Kind of Girl.
Yeah.
It's very rare for a man to sing a song about, it's just not about, it's not working out, so don't worry about it. Things happen, people, and I'm like, I'm a kid listening to this and thinking, wow, this is an interesting song. I listen to it now and I still I still just love the vibe of it. I mean, I think unfortunately, what Jermaine probably didn't realize is
Mm.
that Michael was the music.
Yeah,
We talked about singing Destiny,
yeah,
and guys, if you see it I had it on my Instagram post. He has to get up and he has to. Jermaine couldn't do that.
no.
None of I think Marlon tried to
Marlon
try
never
sit down,
hit. He never hit as a soloist. It just didn't work.
but it because it feels as if you're trying to
Yeah,
do that,
yeah,
as opposed to Michael, that it just felt like he was just it just was part of him. And so, and I think what Michael was is vocally, he was on another level since he was
yeah.
5, and he carried that through. But he's brought in there, and he worked hard on his stage presence, and looking at the I can't remember the dancers now. The white guy with the I was I was going to say Clark Gable, but
Fred
the
Astaire.
the Fred
Mm,
Astaire, that was his guy. They were friends, but he was still like looking at his old stuff and saying, "Well, let me take elements of that."
mm. He was
He was students
curious. He
of
was
performance.
curious.
Charlie Chapman,
Yeah,
he loved Charlie. He knew him, but he was taking all of that. So you can't, most people sang. He was like, "How do I take it to another level?"
yeah,
I'm watching West Side Story.
yeah.
I'm thinking, how can I incorporate that in the
Mm.
video? Jermaine was singing, yes,
And
but
playing bass.
Jermaine
And playing
got
bass. Let's not
yeah,
don't
yeah,
forget
yeah,
to.
but that's yeah, as friend is there, but that's that's the difference between what Michael was doing.
Yeah,
People have shown videos of Smooth Criminal and Dangerous and saying, "Oh yeah, look at where he got
where
it
you got it
from."
from.
Yeah, because Michael was a student of history and
Yeah,
art.
yeah.
He studied that. He took it forward. Jeffrey Daniels was doing the
But
moonwalk.
Michael took it.
Who knew about
He
it?
took it.
He took it. He perfected it.
Yeah,
Became the
yeah,
biggest thing in the
yeah,
world. So but Jermaine and the rest weren't doing that. They were, they weren't doing
but
that. So I think
yeah.
you've got to understand that what Michael did was just say, okay, I want to be the greatest. I mean, I think if you watch the American Dream film, it was like he was in a studio asking, what does that button do? He was learning and wanted to become
It's
better
that scene. He's
while his
he's in the
brothers
studio with Berry Gordy, and his dad slaps him on the head. Was that?
don't
Yeah,
touch that
yeah,
boy.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But his brothers remind me of, say, Joseph and the multi. They're out there playing and stuff, and he's there watching the sheep, but learning.
well, they're not just out.
And the brothers were
Yeah,
like chasing
they're chasing
girls.
girls and all this
Yeah.
type of stuff. And it's interesting. Look, Michael is a tale. It's a sad tale if you're a sibling, because no one wants to be the Jermaine of the siblings. No disrespect. It's true. Jermaine got
I love the fact that the British do that. They slander someone and says no disrespect.
Yeah, but it's true. No one wants to be the Jermaine, or they don't want to be referenced in a rap song as Tito. Rest in peace to Tito. But it's what happens. And Papa T is incredible, all that type of stuff. And I'm sure he took it in good grace. But when Michael Jackson came of age at 5, he ousted Jermaine as the lead singer. Like, imagine that. Imagine what that would do to your mental. Even though you love your brother, but you were the lead singer of this group, and then your little brother is just a phenomenon, and it's almost like Shakespearean or Grecian in terms of the tragedy of Michael Jackson. In terms of, like, you have this middle child who is just that good. Also, he's the one who resembles physically the father who he hates so much. So he spends most of his adult life trying to move his physiology away from the thing he hates the most. So there's a lot of Grecian kind of Shakespearean tragedy in the life of Michael Jackson. But like I said, no one wants to be the Jermaine of the group. Everyone wants to be Michael. Everyone wants to be Michael. And also, no one should be a Jermaine, because Jermaine in his older age became a hater. It's like on a football team, not everyone's going to be the striker. Sometimes you have to be like, nah, actually, I'm Roy Keane. I'm holding it down at the back, but I've got an integral role. Or Roberto Carlos or whatever. I'm hitting up the midfield. Not everyone's going to be Ronaldo. R9. It's not possible. Some of these things are just once in a lifetime. And that's that.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, but we know, as I said, one of my favorite songs is "Don't Take It Personal" from Jermaine, and Jermaine, was definitely, he came and he came back with the 2300 Jack Street. He did a lot of the production and stuff like that. So he showcased what he was missing, but there was, Michael's a generational talent, and Michael is a generational talent, and no one in the family could, Janet has done,
She's came the closest.
closest.
She came the closest,
She's
and
come
she
the
actually
closest with,
she held the dynasty down when Michael was having a wobble, really, because that Jackson name took a wobble after '93, and Janet just held it down for the Jacksons, and is still doing so. And she took some slings and arrows, with the Super Bowl in '03 with when JT snaked her, Justin Timberlake snaked her. Let's call a spade a spade. He snaked her. But Janet historically has held the family down here's the thing, and this is a theory that I'm just thinking about now. She held the family down in the consciousness of Black people in a way that Michael was unable to in the 90s. Like, if you think about it, she was doing movies, something that Michael had always wanted to do. She was in Poetic Justice, and was brilliant at that.
Yeah.
She was a Nutty Professor. Then she later on did some Tyler Perry films and all that. But Janet was kind of like, she was big enough as a pop star to reach the heights, but she was also not as big as Michael to where she was believable in a film like Poetic Justice. Imagine Michael Jackson with another actress playing the Tupac role in Poetic Justice. It just wouldn't work, because you wouldn't believe that this guy, who grew up in LA, mind you, Michael Jackson grew up in LA, but he wasn't outwardly a home, like from the hood like that, and couldn't relate, because when you go to the moon and you've lived on the moon and you walk on the moon, how are you going to come down chill with us Earthlings?
Yeah, I mean, but think about it, Janet did, Good Times and
She did Different Strokes. She was in Different Strokes.
Different
She played
Strokes.
Charlene.
Yeah, she was Different Strokes. She did good. She was in Good Times, and so she got it, and then she was on The Love Boat. So she was in Fame. So she went down that acting.
She earned her chops. She earned her chops as an actress, and she's pretty darn good. She's pretty darn good.
So, as I said, we all positive around the Michael movie, and the trailers look amazing. I think a lot of us will probably be really fascinated about the transition from the Jacksons to that whole solo stuff, and they've already and they'll come out with part 2 next year. And it's done by the same guy who did the Freddie Mercury stuff as well. So I believe, let's just.
Well, no, Antoine Fuqua. You mean the director or the writer?
The producer.
Oh, the producer. Okay, fine. Yeah.
Yes. Antoine Fuqua, did he do Training Day?
He did do Training Day, yeah, and
he
Talk
did Training Day
and other things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, guys, we appreciate you guys listening to us. You can see Akemnji is really a massive fan. He was just remembering lyrics off the top of his head, so it tells you that it wasn't just just looking at the notes. As I said, we'll be back, and we always appreciate you guys. But I can guarantee you, before the end of the week, Janet's publicist will come out and say there was no rumors there. Everything was false alarm, because as a family, they realized that this is bigger than just Michael, than family pride.
Facts.
So yeah, we'll catch you guys, and thanks you guys for being part of the show, and talk to you soon.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that category.
And somewhere in between.
or even loving us, on which I didn't miss you.
What was it like growing up?
She's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple of pieces.
Trying to get this one and that one.
That works for you, but just for me,
No, okay.
They don't understand what Jonas' voice meant.
Play it.